Welcome one and welcome all. I've been promising this video for a little while now, and it's finally time for me to show you how I batch paint Night Lords. You may be aware, if you're a regular viewer of the channel, that I have a big Night Lords commission on at the moment, and you've seen a few individual models from that. We've painted a Praetor for the channel, we've painted a Leviathan Dreadnought for the channel. But it is now time to start work on some of the squads, and because of that, I needed to find a way to convert the colour schemes that I'd already laid down into something that was batch paintable, that I could actually get through in a reasonable amount of time. And this isn't just about cutting corners, this is about being able to save your customer money on what you're quoting them for a job like this. So both as a commission painter and an artist, it poses a really interesting challenge for me. So let's take a look at what I did. There's going to be a pretty interesting surprise around the middle of this video, and I really think it's worth staying tuned for. Let's check it out. Okay, so first things first, I've got my minis sub-assembled and sprayed black and grouped up in batches of 5. This is a little thing that I do just to make it a little bit easier to handle them during the airbrushing sections. Now, I am going to be starting off with an airbrush here, but it is worth bearing in mind that everything that I do with an airbrush here, you could happily do with a brush as well. And in fact, it may have been better to do it with a brush. Stay tuned to find out more. So the first thing I'm going to be doing is just giving these guys a head-on spray with Exile Blue from P3. Again, you can find dark blues like this in rattle cans, so that's also an option if you don't have an airbrush. There are always ways to work around that kind of thing. And now I'm going to come for a bit more of a sort of top-down highlight, this time with Signar Blue, again from P3. This whole colour scheme, if you've watched any of the Night Lord series, is pretty much entirely P3. Okay, and then we're going to grab Signar Blue Highlight and Meridius Blue. We're going to mix those together in the airbrush cup and just sort of finish off squirting in a few highlights there. And then comes the part that I always dread, going around and filling in all the black parts. This always takes a while, there's no way around it. It's just a thing that takes some time, and you just have to do it. So let's just do it. Because once we get them to this stage, we can then move on to more interesting things. So that's pretty good. So what I want to do first of all is start getting some metallics down. We're going to go in with Vallejo Metal Colour Dark Aluminium. Now these paints are formulated for airbrush, but I actually really highly recommend them for brushing. That's one of their best applications. You have to be pretty sparing with them because they're very thin, but they have so much pigment in them. They cover really well and produce really excellent flat metallics. Okay, and now I can start to punch in some of the red details. I'm going to start off low here with Barak Nar Burgundy, one of the few Games Workshop paints that's in this workup. So it's a little after 8 at night at this point, and I've just come back into the office. Wouldn't normally do this, but I've been sat here thinking about these, and I really like the way they're going. And the tutorial up to this point has definitely been a way that I would work for Night Lords. That's definitely a thing I would do. But this is part of a bigger commission, and the customer that it's going out for, two of the things that he really, really likes are lots of modulation, which means lots of contrast, which means deeper shadows than what I've currently got. And he also really, really likes my textured highlighting style, and that was something he really asked me to lean into on this commission. I've already done a couple of other models, so they do kind of need to match that as well. And it's at that point that I kind of realised I was sort of messing this up. And it's important to be able to call yourself on that. It's important to understand when that's happening as a commission painter and to know when you've got to react to it, make a change of plan and modify what you're doing. So that's why I've come into the office to actually test. And that's going to be the big twist in this video, is that we're not going to completely start again, but I'm going to show you how we're going to correct this workup to get more darkness, to get more contrast, and to get more texture into it. So if you like the first half, still totally a valid way to work it up to this point. What we're going to now show in the second half of this video is an alternate way to do it that's really much more in line with my style. So let's get on with, well, not quite starting again, but kind of starting again. Okay, I was pretty downhearted after what you saw in that interlude, but I picked myself up and decided I needed to recover. So let's get back on with it. We're going to first of all mix some purple ink and darken up some of those recesses. This is just red and blue ink, and just mix them to a ratio where the red is darkening the blue, essentially. And now I'll grab Exile Blue again, that was the first colour we worked up, and just run some texture between the shadows and the midtones. This involves being deliberately messy, which is one of the weird styles that I paint in, that for some reason seems to have attracted a bit of interest, and It's a little bit counterintuitive if you're used to painting very cleanly. Now we'll go back to Signar Blue Highlight, and again we'll rework the midtones, just forcing some texture in there. And then back to the mixture of Signar Blue Highlight and Meridius Blue, and as you can see here, I've used exactly the same colours through the airbrush. I just have much more control over their distribution when I'm doing it with a brush. The addition of texture creates visual interest, but the main thing here was just reworking the distribution of shade, midtone and highlight on the volumes, just to pull everything down a little bit darker. Okay, now you'll remember that base of Barak Nar Burgundy that we were working from when we were gonna start dotting in all the red stuff. Now we can start dotting in all the red stuff. This is Cador Red Base, again from P3. And then I'm going to do just some really rough, fast blending with a bit of Cador Red Highlight here and there. Cador Red Highlight is actually an orange, and it's quite a good coverage orange. Sort of somewhere around a Jacquero orange, but a bit more vibrant. Sort of like Jacquero orange and Wild Rider Red had a baby. In a few of the black areas that remain on the miniatures, we're going to need just some rough, neutral grey textured highlights, and I just mix these to order. Contextually, they only need to match the rest of the squad, so as long as you're mixing enough to match the rest of the squad, it's such a minor part of the workup, it's really not going to notice across an entire army. Just mix these to go. Our squad leader's skull helm is going to need a quick base coat of Beast Hide from P3. This might be the first time using this paint on the channel. It's actually a really cool basis to work up bone and stuff like that. Then we'll go in over the top of that with some jack bone, not making too much effort to blend, just keeping our layers thin enough that we get at least some sense of transition. And then just tip off the corners and ends with a bit of pure white from there. While we've got white on the brush, I'm also going to take this as an opportunity to scribble in some lightning. Now, when I did the classier, the high tabletop, the display standard versions of these workups, we took a little bit more care and time around the lightning, for obvious reasons. But when it comes to tabletop, I don't think it's something that you should miss off just for your battle ready. Night Lords kind of want that lightning, it's part of their look. But I do think that you need to find a way to keep it quick. And honestly, I think the simplest, easiest way to keep it quick is to just get a good quality white that flows well and scribble it in just white with no other accent colours around it, no blending through it, no hazy effects, none of that business. Just a bit of pure white. We've got a few dots here and there of gold accenting. This is just a gold from P3. I forget the name of it off the top of my head, but it's such a tiny space on the miniature. Use whatever gold you like, really. And then we've got a bit of basing to finish things off. I should point out here that for this basing scheme, I'm using a Grellan Badland, then I'm washing that over with some Agrax Earthshade, and then to finish things off, a quick dry brush of Jack Bone, and a couple of tufts here and there from the amazing Rival Crafts. Remember that there is an affiliate link in the description for Rival Crafts if you want to check that out. And so from there, we're on to shaky Mr. Shy camera work for this reveal video. I'm quite happy with the lesson learned during this commission, and I'm quite happy with the result in the end. I'm really glad that I actually went back and roughed things up more, because that was a key thing that the customer wanted. That was the whole premise of the commission from the start, was that they wanted chunky, textural, bold, modulated power armor that looked interesting and stood out on the battlefield. So being able to identify that I was failing in that brief, and not being too proud to just continue with my failures, but actually making a point of saying to myself, no, let's correct this, let's fix it, and let's come back and do something that is exactly what the customer wants. And I ran it by the customer at that midpoint, and I'm really glad that they echoed my feelings as well, because it was really important to me to get this job right. I really love working on these Night Lords, and I want the whole army to be super impressive together. It'll be one of the first full army commissions that I've ever painted, and so I'm really excited when those photos start coming back of the whole army together on the battlefield. And I don't want to let them down by being complacent in silly areas like style. Style is something that we have so much agency over, and I'm glad that I made that decision to correct these and pull the style back in line with the rest of the stuff. So folks, what do you think? Have you ever done this before? Have you ever been halfway through painting a squad and said, this isn't going anything like how I want it to. I need to change this. Do you backtrack? Do you carry on? Do you lean into it? Do you try and find a way to make it less obvious? What are your approaches for getting around things like this? Drop me a comment below and let me know. Of course, if you liked this video, don't forget to hit that thumbs up button. And you can subscribe to the channel. You can enable notifications if you want to stay up to date on what's going on here on YouTube. There are, of course, also affiliate links and a Patreon campaign that you can check out down in the description if that kind of thing interests you. But until the next one, folks, I'm going to get out of here for now. So thank you so much for watching, and bye-bye for now.